You might hear from the prophets of doom and gloom that, boy, our younger generations is going astray, how they are going to face the challenge of television, nudity, sex, gays, homosexual, and so on. But mashallah, our youth are succeeding in every field. Let me introduce to you first speaker for today, Mazen Asbahi. Mazen has been always involved in the youth, in the MENA programs and other camp programs. He is now freshman at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and let's welcome him, Brother Mazen Asbahi.
Sometimes I become disillusioned by fellow Muslims and communities everywhere by their misjudgment of priorities. You see, there is a grave crisis on the hands of all Muslim communities in North America, and that crisis is your children. There are many problems which we have to deal with growing up in North America, and among them is identity. Many of us ask, am I Arab? Am I American? Am I Muslim? Can I combine these three? Where do I draw the lines? Where are my loyalties? And also, what difference does it make? Well, the answer to that is that it makes all the difference. I read something very interesting recently which deals with loyalties. The name of the article was Secular Education and Political Socialization of Muslim Children by Professor Hakim Rashid of Howard University. He discussed the need of the implementation of Islamic education, based Western secular system, and I'll quote from him, as a secular education system promotes loyalty to the nation as the highest good, Muslim children are in essence being forced to deny the veracity of the Quran and ignore its supremacy over any law or ideology imposed by the nation states, unquote. Thus, even at the elementary school level, our loyalties, or as Professor Rashid puts it, political socialization, is being determined. An excellent case in point is, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, etc.
Muslim children must feel comfortable arguing the supremacy of Sharia over man-made laws. Muslim children must feel comfortable advocating shura over simple majority rule. And Muslim children must feel comfortable with the Islamic worldview that argues in an uncompromising fashion that the law of Allah, as articulated in the Quran, supersedes the law of Western man.
Too many parents are trying to recreate Syria, Pakistan, Egypt, whatever country in their own homes. My dear brothers and sisters, I believe this is futile, bordering even on the edge of destructive. As you can see, assimilation into American life or Canadian life is a reality. Most of you have made the conscientious decision to immigrate here, and now you have to deal with this problem. And I plead to you to deal with this problem in wisdom and in patience. Assimilation in its totality and at face value is not bad and does not have to be feared. But now we have to be careful, and we need to know where to draw the lines. Again, when you draw the lines, please do it in patience and in wisdom. And I hope that if I said anything good, that it is by Allah's blessing. If I said anything wrong, it is my fault, for I'm only a man. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Mazen. Let me tell you a very, very interesting experience which just happened to me only a couple of weeks ago. We had conducted a camp in Michigan, and out of about 40 girls who were in that camp, just with the simple peer pressures, some of them were already wearing hijab, but 12 of them decided, they made a pledge with each other that they will never take their hijab out. If really you want to practice your Islam, you have to go to Islamic activities where you can meet your other Muslim brothers and sisters. And like Brother Mazen was already saying it, that you have to get involved and send your children where their Muslim friends are. Don't send them to the Christians and the Jews' birthday parties. Don't send them to their Christmas parties, but try to get them involved into the Muslim activities. So I would introduce Javed Shah to come here and speak.
Within the Ummah, the Prophet and Allah has assigned certain duties, and that is the question before us today. What is the challenge of the specific segment of society we are discussing, the youth? There's little doubt that one of our main objectives is to call people to Allah. There's no question about that. But this is a small part of our da'wah. And what we have to understand in a broader sense is what is the challenge of the wider ummah and what place does the youth play in that challenge. Sharia after Sharia, minhaj after minhaj, prophet after prophet was sent down for one specific purpose, again and again and again. And it was much more all-comprehensive than simply calling to Allah. The question then before the youth is, specifically, what responsibilities do we have in moving towards that state of perfection? And more specifically, what responsibility do the youth in the 20th century and here in North America have towards their ummah? And from that point, we can go to the question of the challenges that they face while they grow up. If we are to move towards a state of perfection, I think we have to recognize we don't have that state right now. We don't have a state of perfection within the ummah. If we need guidance, we go to the Quran, and the Quran describes for us a situation very similar to what we're in today. It describes in the Battle of Hunayn a very significant problem which occurred. The Muslims, they had all sorts of weapons for the first time. They were more in number, they were stronger, and they thought for sure that they would win that war. And Allah describes what happens in the Quran, saying that verily we helped you in many a battlefield. And on the day of Hunayn, when your great numbers were a source of elation to you, you're happy, you had all this power. So much so that you thought for sure you'd win. وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ, and the entire earth came as a source of constriction upon you, and then you turned back and ran away. You left your responsibilities, you left the Maidan, you left your prophet, you left the companions, you left the message. So what are the elements of change? How can we change this situation? I submit that there are three essential elements which are needed for success. And this is the responsibility of every youth to have within themselves. And this is the challenge that they face. They need conviction, number one. Number two, they need brotherhood and sisterhood. And number three, they need power. Everything in life is based upon some sort of conviction. In Islam, we call that conviction iman. The second very important challenge is one of brotherhood. Minna is doing a fantastic job in that. I've seen people come from Minna conventions and conferences, and they have all sorts of new friendships and ties. And there's a network that's building. Whether or not you know it, there's a network that's building on the underground all over this country and all over this continent. And inshallah, I hope, in 5 or 10 years, when things come to fruition, these people will take over, and inshallah, they'll be a source of light for the entire ummah. This network is very important and must continually be built. Brotherhood is a very sweet thing. I keep saying brotherhood, but I hope you know brotherhood and sisterhood. It's a very sweet thing, because the way that the Quran describes the brotherhood that was built by the Prophet ﷺ, it's something that is unimaginable. The feeling that you get when you know that someone's ready to defend you no matter what. Brotherhood's a very, very important thing. All of us have seen what's happening in Bosnia. All of us have seen the little children in Palestine pelting these Israeli soldiers with rocks. Those are our brothers, those are our sisters. Everything that happens to them happens to us too, and that's the feeling that has to be built within ourselves. The third, very important, and I think perhaps maybe the most neglected aspect of success and change, and the challenge, is called al-quwwa, power. The truth cannot be propagated without power. You don't have strength to protect yourself, you don't have strength to propagate, you won't be able to do it, no matter how great your message is. What I mean by strength is something much broader than just iman. I mean economic strength. I mean strength in terms of money. I mean weapons. I mean everything. And it's a challenge for the Muslim youth, I believe, to go to the very highest level in any field of study. If you reach a position where you are over top of people rather than subservient to them, believe me, the amount of change you can do is much, much more. I refer you to this story of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam in the Quran. But in one specific verse, and I have no qualms in saying this, though maybe I shouldn't say it here, but we also have to have physical strength in terms of military strength. And the youth should not take this, especially the brothers, they shouldn't take it secondarily. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught that. The Quran said that. وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ مِنْ قُوَّةٍ وَمِنْ رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. Prepare yourselves. Get ready. Is it so unreasonable for us to think that one day, as youth, that one day we wouldn't be in Palestine fighting? I think that the youth have to start understanding that their responsibilities are very great. The first ayah that I quoted very clearly stated that our responsibilities are much beyond even the ummah. The responsibility we have is to take care of the entire earth. The entire earth is our responsibility. It says in this specific ayah that one should prepare himself as much as he's able to the extent of his abilities. And if I could just digress a little bit, Afghanistan is one of those examples where people just prepared up to their abilities and see what the result was. I remember in the very beginning of the war, Newsweek magazine, the late 70s, very sarcastically mentioned a story about the Mujahideen. They said that the Mujahideen of Afghanistan were seen circumambulating around the masajid of Pakistan in an attempt to pay for the purchase of 20,000 knives. 20,000 knives. They're going to take on the Russian bear with knives. They're going to take on the tanks and the warplanes and all the fancy weapons with some knives. But something was inside their heart, and they remembered that ayah from the Quran saying that prepare yourselves as much as you're able to. Karate, taekwondo, knives, whatever. Prepare yourself as much as you're able to, and be ready. And that's what they were. They were ready. And they understood exactly what their responsibilities were, and finally they fulfilled them by casting that Russian bear aside, destroying that entire coalition of countries, and finally putting the stamp of death on communism itself because of their efforts. And look how they started. Now these three things, I'm sure that I'm going over time, these three things are very, very important, and they have to be gathered within ourselves. But is this something which I personally elucidated myself? I came to this conclusion sitting down at night and saying, well, these are the three things that I think will be the remedy of the ummah. Is this what the youth have to be, is this the challenge which the youth face? I refer you again to one specific story. And it's a date that I hope that every youth has etched deep inside their hearts. The date is February 12th, 1949. Does any of you guys know what happened on that day? Does anyone know? I was talking to some brothers down here before. On that specific day, I take you to Rome, Italy. And I report this story on the authority of Sheikh Abdul Hamid Kishk. In Rome, Italy, he narrates that one of his friends was there on that specific night. And then, deep in the night, they heard the bells ringing and ringing deep in the night. And he started to wonder, what is this? Why this celebration all of a sudden? And he went down and he started asking around. And people were dancing in the streets. There was all sorts of diplomats shaking hands and hugging. What was it that happened on this night that brought about this amount of rejoicement? So he stopped the man and he asked him, and he said, well, why all this partying? And the man told him, haven't you heard the news? Hassan al-Banna has been cut down in the streets of Cairo, and we are tasting the sweet feeling of joy and success. Imam Hassan al-Banna was the one who elucidated these principles. Do you know who Imam Hassan al-Banna was? He was a man who taught Islam to be a deenun kamilun, a complete religion, a complete way of life. He taught that Islam was not just a religion, but a deen and a dawla. He taught it to be everything. And that was why he was cut down. If you'd like to understand what was the basis of his elucidation, then again I take you back to Ismailiyya, 1928 Egypt, when Hassan al-Banna was a 22-year-old young man. He looked at the ummah, he looked at Palestine, he looked all across the ummah, and he was in a state of deep depression. Finally, he stood up in that small population center in Ismailiyya in Egypt, and he called out to those Muslims that stood out before him, and to all the Muslims across the ummah. He looked at them and he took the Quran, the Mus'haf of the Quran, high up in his right hand, and he yelled out to them, Ayyuhan nas, at-tariq ha huna. At-tariq ha huna. This is the way. This is the only way. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. The only thing that was needed was that a small group of people, being the example, would turn around. And on that specific day, when all the Muslims were running away and turning their backs and leaving their Prophet and leaving their responsibility, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went forward. And around him, the companions, the very good believers, they went forward because they'd never leave his side. No matter what anyone else said, they went forward while everyone else went back. And as the Prophet went forward in his fight, alone with this group of people, the Muslims checked their run, and they looked at these individuals, and they saw what they were doing, and they turned around and they too ran back, saying, Labbaik, Labbaik, wa sa'adaik, wal khayru kulluhu fi yadaik, coming back, running and helping their Prophet. And in the end, they won. They achieved everything that they were supposed to achieve. And that is the challenge the Muslim youth face, to be that specific example. Brothers and sisters, dear youth, we face a very gigantic challenge. And we are in need of a generation of people who recognize and remember their responsibilities, who rally around the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are in need of a generation of individuals who rise up in the night and they pray, and during the day they do good deeds. We are in need of a generation of people who don't bicker over trivial issues, but look at the further, or the utmost goal, the highest goal, and continue to strive and struggle for achieving that goal. We are in need of a group of individuals who begin to emulate the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in order that perhaps we may be that generation. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. I say these words and ask Allah to forgive me.
Let's hear it a little bit louder. Let's hear this. Takbir! Takbir! Jazakallahu bikhair. Brother Javed Shah has given us three very important points. First and foremost thing is to conviction to our aqidah, our religion, our belief, and our faith. And second thing is the brotherhood and the sisterhood. I will not forget that about sisterhood. And the third is the empowerment, that we have to get ready, be prepared. Before we are attacked, we should be ready to defend ourselves.
Banna, the Muslim Youth of North America, is holding its 8th annual summer conference here in Kansas City, Missouri. Banna is an organization for youth ages 12 through 18, which helps to provide leadership skills and instill a high Islamic commitment. It's also a great place to renew your ties of brotherhood and sisterhood. For ISNA Vision, I'm Ahmed Zwink, on site.
As Muslims settle in North America in increasing numbers, a distinct North American Muslim culture is bound to emerge. Questions arise as to whether what is American can also be within the bounds of Islam.
Assalamu alaikum again. The program you just saw has been produced by the Muslim youth, and mashallah, our sisters in hijab, they can be on television and mashallah still look good. And it will be just a matter of time when they will be replacing Peter Jennings and Barbara Walter on the television, inshallah. Okay, next comments.
Knowledge is categorized in Islam as fard, obligatory, fard kifaya, mubah, and mamnu'. So fard, which is al-ilm al-shar'i, it's knowledge about sharia. It is obligatory upon each and every one of us. I wanted to say, when you said we see our sisters in hijab on television and they still look good, here we are missing the point of hijab. It's not to make them look ugly. It's just to limit the point of attracting attention from others. So for those who are sick in their hearts, who have marad fi qulubihim, it's better. So as we all know, Islam is a preventive religion. It doesn't wait for the problem to occur. No, it cuts ways before it does. Jazakumullah khair.
MashaAllah. I think that I spoke a couple of times, and let me give you my own experience. I shouldn't be spending time on it, but it will be very short. It's my own personal experience in Metro Detroit area where I live, that in one of the parties, in the American parties, it was in a very nice home, and the older brothers, he put the alcohol in the fruit punch, and everybody in the party got drunk. That's one experience. Second experience is there was a sleepover. It was between the Americans themselves, and the girl was kidnapped and she was killed from the birthday party. There are so many experiences that if those children are not under your control at that time, you might lose them. My intent was not to avoid the contact with the Americans. We do all the time. With non-Muslims, we should not be avoiding the contact, but they should be under the supervisions. And when I was saying it, the preference should be given to the Muslims' homes than to Christians' home. I hope Brother Khurshid Malik does not misunderstand my comments.
Sure. If you ask my personal opinion, I'd say I'm against going to such parties 100%. So it doesn't mean that I'm saying that to...
Jazakallah.
But yeah.
The point was made about knowledge and its importance and so on. I think that I keep addressing you all as if you're all youth, you know. But we have the coolest religion in the world. Like really, the coolest people in the world are Muslims. Believe me, you just name them off: Malcolm X, Hassan, Banna, Sayyid, Qutb. Coolest people in the world. I mean, these people, they stand up for justice. They fight for truth, you know. And it's all based upon knowledge, their understanding. We have a very great religion. And if the youth can come to understand that, they're going to do and achieve great things. There's no question about it. And it's a question of having heroes as well. Like, who are the heroes of the youth? I mean, these people are people who are interested in knowledge and understanding. Who are the heroes of this society? Like, there's this guy, what's his name, MC Hammer? You see the pants that guy? Well, maybe that's... I mean, the heroes of this society are a joke, you know? MC Hammer and I don't know who else. There's Michael Jackson. Who knows what he is, you know? And like, these are the heroes of the society, and people who, like, if you start emulating those people, you become like them. Like, if you really like them, then you start behaving like them, start getting haircuts like them, and then, you know. So it's a question of heroes as well. Like, we should try and understand who it is that brought this religion to us, and what type of individuals they are. And when you stand up to pray, whether at McDonald's or on the side of a street or wherever, you stand up proud because you're a Muslim. And it's all, again, a question of knowledge.
So, Brother Qadi.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam Rasulillah. Ahmad al-Qadi. There's something puzzling me. I don't know how I became a grandparent while I still feel and often think as a teenager. Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. I'm very proud of our youth and of men.
We're living in a heterogeneous society. I think we should not build a cocoon for ourselves and just keep our own ideas to ourselves, but to visit the various subcultures in the States and check them out as well. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallahu khair.
There's nothing wrong, and it's good, in fact, to go and explore different religions. But at the same time, I think we should explore our own religion a little bit too, because there's a lot of things that Islam has to offer. And people, like, you know, if you're sincere, you'll find a lot of answers inside Islam for a lot of things that you're looking for. I mean, I could go on at ends, I guess, about the greatness of the religion. But it is very important, though, living in this society, I think, to get to know the other cultures as well. Prophet Nuh, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the Quran, when he began his propagation of the message, he didn't start by saying, Allah is one. The very first word he used in the Quran when he began his message was, Ya qawmi, O my people. You know, inni rasul, like, he begins by saying, O my people. In other words, he understands the people. He knows what's inside their minds. He knows how they live. He knows how they think. It's not like he was some artificial person who came and said, okay, this is what you have to do now. They knew him, he knew them, he understood them. And so it is important to get to know the other communities and so on. And in fact, if someone, you know, chooses not to accept Islam after you've explained it to him, it doesn't mean you become an enemy or something like that to him. It's good to have this good understanding with different people. That's the tolerance that Islam has taught.
Okay, now there is some important announcement about the programs. Inshallah, right after the